Germany made an extraordinary offer to the Mexican government. Attack the United States, and Germany would help Mexico reclaim Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Then, Germany sent the offer through an American diplomatic cable. It sounds less like diplomacy than sabotage. But in January 1917, German leaders believed they were only months away from winning the First World War. Britain was under blockade pressure. German submarines could attack the ships keeping it supplied, and if those submarines worked fast enough, Germany believed Britain might be forced to surrender before American troops could cross the Atlantic. There was one obvious danger. Unrestricted submarine warfare could bring the United States into the war. Germany needed a way to keep America occupied at home. The answer, proposed by German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann, was Mexico. If the United States entered the war, Germany would offer Mexico an alliance and financial support. In return, Germany would recognize its attempt to reconquer territory lost decades earlier, Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona. Mexico would be asked to attack the United States from the south. It was even supposed to invite Japan to join the alliance, although Japan was already fighting on the Allied side. The proposal was improbable. The message carrying it was real. On January 16th, Zimmermann sent the coded telegram to Germany's ambassador in Washington, Johann von Bernstorff. Bernstorff was instructed to forward it to Heinrich von Eckert, Germany's representative in Mexico City. Getting it there required an extraordinary route. Britain had cut Germany's direct Atlantic telegraph cables near the beginning of the war. German diplomats had been forced to rely on neutral communication networks, including a route through Sweden. But President Woodrow Wilson had also allowed Germany limited use of American diplomatic cables in the hope that they might carry peace proposals. Germany deliberately used that access. The decision was not an oversight. It was a calculated gamble that became a disastrous miscalculation. Germany had few reliable routes across the Atlantic. Its officials knew the message was traveling through an American channel, but they trusted the protection of diplomatic traffic and, above all, the numbers covering the words. They were gambling that encryption made the route safe. It did not. The message traveled from Berlin through Copenhagen, passed through London, and continued to Washington. But transatlantic cable traffic passing through Britain could be intercepted. Waiting for it was Room 40, the British Admiralty's secret code-breaking unit, created to intercept and decipher enemy communications. Using German code material captured during the war and years of accumulated work, Room 40 could read communications Germany believed were secure. The Zimmermann message arrived as groups of numbers produced with diplomatic code 0075. To an ordinary cable operator, it was meaningless. To cryptanalysts, including Nigel de Grey, it was a concealed plan for war on American soil. Germany had placed an offer to dismantle part of the United States inside a communication system supplied by the United States. Room 40 had found the message. That did not mean Britain could use it. Revealing the telegram could expose two secrets at once. Germany might discover that Britain had broken its diplomatic codes. America might discover that Britain was reading traffic sent through an American diplomatic channel while the United States was still neutral. Either revelation could become a diplomatic crisis. Germany would change its codes. Room 40 would lose access to future messages, and the Americans might focus as much on British espionage as on Germany's proposal. Admiral William Hall, Britain's Director of Naval Intelligence, therefore faced a problem more difficult than decoding the telegram. He needed to prove it was genuine without revealing where Britain had found it. The answer was another copy. After the message reached Washington, the German embassy forwarded it to Mexico City over the commercial telegraph system. That version had been encoded again, this time with the older German code 13040. Room 40 understood far more of that code. Hall knew a copy should remain in Mexico's telegraph network. A British agent obtained it from the Mexico City Telegraph Office. The duplicate carried different routing information and could plausibly have been acquired after leaving Washington. It gave Britain exactly what it needed: a nearly complete version of the message and a believable explanation that did not point back to Room 40 or to the American cable. In late February, British officials showed the telegram to Walter Page, the American ambassador in London. Page notified Washington on February 24th. President Wilson now held evidence that Germany was planning for war not merely in the Atlantic, but along the American border. The government released the message. On March 1st, newspapers across the United States printed the proposal. At first, some Americans refused to believe it. The idea that Germany expected Mexico and Japan to attack the United States sounded too absurd. Critics called the telegram a British fraud designed to drag America into the war. Then, Arthur Zimmermann did something Britain could never have forced him to do. On March 3rd, he admitted that the telegram was authentic. The accusation of forgery collapsed, but the telegram did not, by itself, take the United States into World War I. Germany had already resumed unrestricted submarine warfare on February 1st. American merchant ships were attacked. American lives were lost. By March 20th, after German submarines sank 3 more American vessels, Wilson's cabinet was moving toward war. The submarine campaign was the primary cause. The telegram changed how that campaign was understood. Germany no longer appeared to be threatening only ships far out in the Atlantic. It had considered using Mexico to bring the war directly across the American border. On April 2nd, Wilson asked Congress for a declaration of war. He cited Germany's submarine attacks and its attempt to stir up an enemy against the United States. 4 days later, America declared war on Germany. Mexico never accepted the offer. President Venustiano Carranza's government examined it and concluded that Mexico lacked the military strength to defeat the United States or recover the promised territory. Japan denied that it had been approached and said it would have rejected the proposal. Germany's gamble failed at every level. The submarine campaign brought America closer to war. The Mexican alliance went nowhere. And the telegram intended to distract the United States instead helped convince Americans that Germany posed a direct threat. Yet one part of the operation remained successful. Germany did not discover how Britain had obtained the original message. Room 40's access to German diplomatic codes survived. The telegram crossed an American cable disguised as numbers. British codebreakers uncovered the words, but their decisive achievement was finding a way to reveal those words while keeping their own secret hidden. The archive is open.